who are watching online. And there is a quote which says that healthy boundaries aren't about keeping people out, they are about keeping yourself in. So today, our topic is healthy boundaries, and we have Sister Sharon with us. So she is originally from a fashion background, and she was she used to visit inner space before, and after finding out Brahma Kumaris, she have a drastic change in her career. So now she is a Dementia Project Lead for a London charity. So let us all welcome Sister Sharon.
Good evening. Good evening. Is that better? Yeah? Or is there a change at all? Can you hear me now clearly? At the back? Yeah? Great. Okay. So the screen says welcome and check-in energy audit. So I just want you to think about that and just be the auditor for a moment of your own energy. So perhaps just put your 2 feet flat, your soles on the floor, so no crossed legs, because when you cross your legs, your energy is actually not able to flow freely. So, energy audit. Think about today and relax, just relax. Relax into the chair, take a deep breath in through the nose and exhale through the nose. And just be curious about your own breath and where it's coming from. Is your breath coming from the diaphragm, or is it coming from your chest? And just think about the analogy of 10 spoons. If you had 10 spoons of energy, how did you use those 10 spoons today? So, for example, you might have got up, had breakfast, and gone for a walk. That could have been 3 spoons. Then maybe having lunch and whatever else you did during the day, 4 spoons. And then you have a good idea of how much energy you have. And think also maybe about where else your energy may have gone and how it's feeling now. So just checking in to how you're feeling right now. Welcome. Anywhere where you want to sit. So I was just saying, just take an energy audit of how you're feeling now and where your energy is, but just taking this time just to relax and be fully present. So I was saying, if you just relax and have both soles of the feet on the ground, because once you start crossing your legs, your energy is blocked in Chinese medicine. So coming into the room and just being really focused, forgetting about the journey that got you here. And when we think about healthy boundaries, it might mean different things to different people. When I told a friend that I was doing a talk on healthy boundaries, his answer was, well, boundaries are not healthy. But depending on many things, generationally, culturally, people have different boundaries, different contexts as well. So, for example, my generation, some of you will be familiar with the expression, children should be seen and not heard. And this is where it all starts, because in my generation, when we were young, we had to be fairly quiet. So this is where all of a sudden there's a disconnect from who you really are. Because if you can't express yourself, you can become introverted. and you're not being your authentic self. I believe parenting is very different now, but back then, if you were young, it was seen and not heard. And some of you will be very familiar with the word trauma, which is now being bandied around quite a lot and is quite topical at the moment. But trauma can then get stuck in the body, and that's why I was talking about energy and energy flow. So healthy boundaries, the power to be able to say, actually, I don't like it when you shout at me, but it's how we say it, to say it with love, and to say it in a very neutral way, as if you're saying, the sky is blue. So there's lots of resources in my toolkit that I use, and I'll move on to the next slide. Thank you. So there's many different types of boundary. So you probably can't see this totally, but mental, it says here, freedom to have your own thoughts, your values, and your opinions. So again, being able to say, but in a very neutral way without anger, I respect your perspective, but I don't agree. I've got my own opinion. So I understand your perspective, but I come from a different perspective. And that's okay. You can still remain friends, but it's okay to have your own opinion. So that's the mental boundary. And then you've got emotional. How emotionally available you are to others. So as much as I want to support you right now, I just don't have the emotional capacity right now. So again, just keeping it very natural and very neutral. And then we go on to material, which you could say is about money, for example. I gave you some money yesterday, I'm not going to be able to give you money again. Or, you know how uncomfortable it sometimes feels when you see someone who's homeless and they ask for money, but actually respecting them and acknowledging them and just saying, hi, I'm really sorry, I haven't got any change. That's totally okay. And the person respects you for that, rather than just ignoring them as if you haven't seen them, but to acknowledge them, to smile, and just say, sorry, I haven't got the money to give you. And 9 times out of 10, you'll get a really nice reply. And then internal, so self-regulation, energy expended on self versus others. So for example, you might have been social all week, maybe the job that you have is a job that you have to be very social. For example, the job that I do, I actually am involved in including people socially, so I arrange trips, I go out with groups, I go all over the place with different groups of people. So my job is very social. Come weekend, I really just want to be on my own. And so it's okay to say, I've been social all week, I need the weekend to myself. Because sometimes we might create a story about how the other person might feel. For example, what would the other person think of me if I don't go with them? What will this group of friends think of me if I say I don't want to go? But actually, if you ask yourself the question, is it true? The way that I perceive it, is it actually true? And then conversational, topics that you do and not feel comfortable discussing. So it could be something about a TV program that you're not into. It's okay not to want to talk about it. Again, just keeping it neutral. And physical, which really is self-explanatory. So now I'm going to just maybe ask you to reflect on the question. In the last couple of weeks, did you say yes when you would have preferred to say no? Or the other way around, no when you would have wanted to say yes? So that's the first question, just to think about that. And the second question that I ask is, how did that impact on you? So perhaps, for example, you went out when you didn't want to go out. Maybe you were too tired. And then the third question would be, how did you think you would be perceived by the other person? So go on to the next slide. So a canopy of protection. So I mentioned different things in the toolkit. So there is a way of strengthening our own energy. And one of those ways is through meditation. Being completely stable ourselves. And another one which I use because I believe movement is the best medicine is Qigong. And for those who haven't heard of Qigong, that's the breath used with intention and movement. So those three things together. So movement, breath, and intention. So you can create a canopy of protection around yourselves to actually protect yourself from other people's energy. So a very quick example, a story. I did a Qigong practice yesterday and I had to meet my cousin in central London. And I was going down the escalators and it became apparent that someone was trying to sort of overtake me, but we were going almost at the same time. And when I got to the bottom of the stairs, I turned around to say, please, you can go ahead of me. But the person reacted very badly and just screamed and said, what's wrong with you? So for me, I didn't react because I cannot take responsibility for how somebody else feels. That's their responsibility. I cannot take responsibility for somebody else's emotions. Their emotions are their business. I cannot take sorrow from somebody else, and I certainly don't want to give somebody else sorrow. So I didn't react. So you can stay in your own neutral space, but you don't have to depend on other people to make you feel low or to make you feel high. And so I just looked at this lady, and as I walked away, I wondered what was going on internally for her, in her world. And I would say 17 years ago, before I came to discover the Brahma Kumaris, I would have reacted very badly. And that would have been probably an argument. And that would have impacted on my health, because the chemicals that are released in anger, the cortisol and everything else, leads to a number of different health problems. Hyperventilation, diabetes, heart conditions. So to be able to be stable in your own energy and to be completely neutral is a healthy boundary for yourself, really. So with that in mind, we're just going to maybe take a couple of minutes to reset again and just come into focus. And I ask you to take a big deep breath, a nice big deep breath through the nose, and exhale. And just think about all the information that we've taken on board so far. And if you can maybe hold on to one point that you might be able to take home with you as a takeaway today. So I've already spoke quite a lot. So let's just inhale through the nose and exhale, this time through the mouth. Inhale now for a count of 4 through the nose. Now we're doing conscious breath work. Pause at the top, hold the breath for 4, and exhale through the nose for 4 counts, and pause at the bottom for 4 counts. That's our box breath. Inhale for 4 counts, pause at the top, and exhale for 4, and pause at the bottom for 4 counts. So in breathing consciously like this is just regulating the nervous system. So just coming again into the space and the focus. So I mentioned the toolkit and I've mentioned Qigong. So if you're all up for it, I'd like to show you a short practice, and the practice that I did yesterday, to actually cleanse your energy. So check in again now how you're feeling, and I'm going to ask everybody, if it's available to you, to stand, and I'm just going to show you the cleansing practice. So see how you feel now. Have you checked in? And now let's all stand together. So we're going to inhale, and then we're just going to exhale. So what we're doing here
You might
is...
have to use the mic so online people can hear
Okay,
it.
so as we inhale up, we're going to then exhale. So what we're doing with our hands, the energy field, we're actually, all of the negative energy comes down back into the earth. And as we come up, we're going to really sort of tap our heels down. So that's the sort of idea. So all together, and if you need balance, you can hold on to your back of your chairs, but if you don't need it, with both hands up, inhale, and then a slight bounce with the heels down, exhale. And just think about all of that energy that you want to release. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, and think of all of that energy going down. And yes, you can smile. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. And with a slight bounce with the heels tapping down, which is also very good for the bones. So inhale, exhale. Inhale and exhale with a tap on the heels. Inhale. So we've got that slight bounce and the knees are slightly bent. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. And then release. Now the next one is we're just going to stand again. See how you feel. And what we're going to do now, imagine that both of your hands are out. I can't use the 2 hands, only the one. But again, you're pointing your palms at the floor. And you're going to take a nice big inhale into the chest. Inhale. And as you exhale, imagine all the stale energy is running down your arms, into the palms of your hands, and into the earth beneath. Inhale, nice big inhale into the chest. And exhale, you're running the energy down the arms, and it's falling out of your palms of your hands and into the earth. Inhale again, and exhale. Inhale into the chest, and running the energy. If you're visual, you might want to think of it like slime, like green slime running down your hands. Inhale, and exhale, cleansing energy. Inhale once more, inhale, and exhale. And you can actually just get rid of any of the energy, the last bit of energy there. And for protection, so here, these 2 points inside the wrist are heart points. So for protection, we're just going to cross them over like so, protect, so for protection. And we're just going to bring them up to the chest, and we're going to turn to the side, and again, palms into the floor. Back to center, crossing the palms for protection, into the side, and down into the earth below. Cleanse. Protect, crossing in front of us, in front of the chest, coming apart in front of the chest, and down into the earth beneath you. Again, center. Inhale, remember intention, breath and movement. Turn to the side and down. Center again. Cross the chest, down, release any stale energy into the earth beneath you. And then we're just going to stand here. And I spoke about this canopy of protection, and this is where visualization comes into play now. So we're going to create that gold canopy of protection around us now. So crossing over those 2 wrist points that signify the heart, just imagine a very beautiful gold light glowing around the body. It's glowing above the head, it's glowing to your left side and to your right side and the space beneath you. Now, to really become stable, and this is a very good tip, especially if you're maybe on a tube and you haven't got a seat, imagine that you have roots growing from the soles of your feet, and those roots are growing down into the earth beneath you. Now imagine your sitting bone, and again you can imagine that you have roots just dangling down, or if you might prefer, a laser beam, which is going from the sitting bone right down to the earth space beneath you. And now, if anyone tried to knock you over, they wouldn't be able to do so. You're solid. And this is a very good tip if you're on the tube. I use it all the time. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. And now we bring both hands down, and this is called the Wuji stance. So we've just created enough space under the armpits so that all the energy can actually whirl around us. And just see how you feel. If you feel a little bit more stable, if you feel a little bit more solid, perhaps you feel a little bit more focused. And just stand and see if anything has shifted for you energy-wise. And then we just bring both feet together. And I thank you very much for participating in that little example of how to change your energy in 5 minutes, really. So please take a seat. So, yoga is another thing. Is there anyone here that practices yoga? Pranayama, the breath work? Again, all of these things are actually free, you know. I mean, a yoga teacher used to say to me, you know, all you need with yoga is a mat, you know. Qigong, just your body, just you, and that's it. No gym membership, and there are so many different things that you can follow and different teachers. But I have to say, I can say it really works, and I want to spread that to everybody, because after having surgery 3 years ago, the surgeons were amazed at they called it a phenomenal recovery. But I had put the effort in, and so that's one thing, you know, about healthy boundaries, because we hear a lot about nutrition, we hear a lot about movement, we all know about that. But our thoughts, our emotions and our feelings, they're equally important, because if we carry on doing things that we don't like doing, it can come out in the body in all sorts of different things, you know. And I think there's a lot of evidence about that now. There's a book as well about that. So several books about how our thoughts and our feelings and emotions, if we don't actually say what it is we want to say, how things can get stuck in the body. Any questions at this point? It's okay to continue, okay? So the actual Qigong sequence that we did was, as I mentioned, to cleanse the energy. And when we did this particular one where we were just running the energy down the arms into the palm, into the earth, that was called venting. So you'll have heard about people using the expression venting. She's venting, as in getting angry, but this is actually a move in Qigong as well. And we don't get angry. So that was another thing that I just mentioned about putting effort in and how your discipline determines the quality of your life. So I was at a group session today, and one of the volunteers there is actually from Brahma Kumaris. And when I mentioned healthy boundaries today, it was interesting because to her, as a Brahmin for many years, as a Pukka Brahmin, she actually thought that healthy boundaries was more about the different things that Brahmins do, which one of them would be to go to bed at a reasonable time, because we tend to get up very early for some people. The first meditation of the morning, not only Brahmins actually, many people get up at 4 a.m. They say it's the best time to feel the connection, and it certainly also makes a complete transformation to your day. And just try it and see, you know, because once you get up at 4 a.m., it's a great foundation, and that's when the magic begins to happen, really. So that's one of the disciplines that she was talking about. And the other discipline, of course, is going to bed fairly early to be able to do that. So we don't lose out on sleep at all. I'm in bed by 9 o'clock, and so I get good quality sleep. So as the introduction stated, I work with people who have memory challenges, and it's so important to have good quality sleep. People are not talking about lifespan anymore, because what is the point of having a long life if you're not healthy? They're using the term health span rather than lifespan. To have a good quality of life depends on numerous things, really, you know, and it's a work in progress. And it really, it's about doing these things consistently, really, and making fine tweaks, and you can actually transform many things. You can transform diabetes. I can say that because I was pre-diabetic, but I completely reversed it. So it is doable. They also say, you know, that we've got 34 senses and not 5 senses. We come from this very limited place, and this is how I started this discussion earlier. You know, when you're a child, the things that you hear, you believe that everything is true. But actually, imagine if you were told and it was evidenced that actually you do have 34 senses, not 5. And that brings me on to the gut. So, healthy boundaries, sugar, you all know about the sugar and how addictive it is. I mean, again, it's okay to have sugar now and again, I mean, in a cake or a biscuit, but it's the little things that you do, and, you know, how often do you do these things, but making it a lifestyle, you know. Stimulants. So what's meant by stimulants? Avoiding stimulants for good sleep. So that would be, even if you're very sensitive, having ginger at night time, you know. Great to have ginger as a stimulant in the morning if you want to wake up at 4 a.m. for the first meditation in winter time. Ginger is very warming and it is a stimulant. But coffee, obviously, we all know about at night, and also sugar, sweet things at night also is not great for sleep, and having water too late at night, because then you're up. Again, coming to our thoughts, sometimes we have something on our mind and we can't sleep. So how do we get around that? I sometimes get up and make myself a night tea, but luckily I don't have too many problems with sleep. But if I am unable to sleep, I just get it all out there in writing. Sometimes you can do journaling, or if you have something on your mind, write it down in case you forget the next day. So the gut health. So we're told now to eat fermented foods. I was listening to a longevity summit recently, and it was the best longevity summit that I've ever heard. They had specialist doctors talking about different things. So for example, one specialist doctor was just on hydration, and she said something quite surprising, which I didn't know. She said, you don't get hydrated through drinking water because you just flush it out. She said the way to hydrate the body is through your food. For example, through smoothies, although they could be full of sugar too. But the Longevity Summit also mentioned the gut. And one doctor who is a specialist gut doctor said that it would be very helpful for the gut if we had fermented food 3 times a day. So fermented food after breakfast, after lunch, and after dinner. So that could be sauerkraut with your lunch. It could be the kefir protein yogurt with your breakfast. But these fermented foods are good for the gut biome. So as I said earlier, what we do most of the time is what really counts. So having the odd biscuit or having the odd cake, okay. But what we do most of the time is what really counts. And people that move have stronger biomes than those who don't move. That's why I was very keen on getting you all up moving. But for me, movement is the best medicine. Again, explore and experiment. So finding the thing that you enjoy doing when it comes to movement, and then doing it consistently, having variety in your life as well. So we have been trusted with this body, and you've heard the expression, the body is a temple, but what we do with it is a lifestyle choice. And the benefits of walking in nature are amplified. So recently, I'd say over the last year, I've really got into forest bathing. And that's another topic of research, that the trees actually emit chemicals that make us feel much better. And again, you know, all this is just, it could just be me talking and theory. These are things that you have to experience and see how you feel when you do it and what's good for you. But you find your own modality. It could be yoga for one person. It could be running on a treadmill to another, or running. But that wouldn't be something that I'd enjoy. But it's finding your own thing, whether that's dancing, swimming, whatever it is, that's your thing. And I don't know whether any of you are familiar with the Global Retreat Centre, but they do forest bathing there. So they're doing forest bathing March the 29th, actually, in Oxford. So I'll definitely be going to that. But they do it more locally as well. So in your local parks, for example, I'm very lucky in my local park. I'm going to one on March the 13th. So it's doable. Although the best place to do forest bathing is in an ancient forest. And we've got a few of those. We've got Hampstead Heath. Burnham Beeches is another one. That's a little bit further out. But still, you still get the impact if you do it in local parks. Gladstone Park, for example, is quite a wild park. But it's more impactful if you do it for at least 2 hours. And you do it very slowly. So you walk slowly, you walk mindfully. You're looking at all the different shades of green, the different patterns of the leaves. And the more you do it, the more beneficial it is. You become more focused. And it's the same with the Qigong. With the Qigong, what we're doing is slowing down. In the forest bathing, we're slowing down. Because life is fast in London. I saw that yesterday when I had to go home from central London at 4:30. The rush hour had already started. The anger had already started. And on the subject of anger, this weekend, on the 28th, on Saturday, there's a one-day in-house retreat at Global Cooperation House in Willesden. And it's saying goodbye to anger. I've done it 3 or 4 times. I recommend it. So that's with John McConnell this Saturday. You can register, and I can highly recommend it. Because, you know, when you do that course, you sort of recognize certain things. That irritability, for example, is a subtle sister of anger. And that's where that lady that I mentioned earlier going down the escalators, but having done the course so often, I recognized it, that was nothing to do with me. It wasn't personal. That lady would have been angry with somebody else. If it hadn't been me, it would have been somebody else. And I just took a step back and I thought, you don't know what's going on with somebody else and their life, what's happening for them, you know? So, as I say, 17 years ago, it would have been a very different story with a very different ending. But having made the effort and doing courses like saying goodbye to anger, it makes you understand people more. So someone else's reaction is not my responsibility. So, as I said, you just don't take it personally, really. It was nothing to do with me, it was all to do with her. And the meditation is a space, a place to pause. I overheard someone many years ago when I went to a group that they used to have at Global Cooperation House called Wise Women. I was very new to meditation at the time, but I heard this, one of the wise women. She turned to another lady and she said, when you start to meditate, you become your own therapist. And I didn't understand then because I was still very new to meditation. But when you meditate, and the more you meditate, the more you realize why you do certain things, and you become your own therapist. And I've got some resources there. One of them I mentioned, Global Cooperation House, and that's this Saturday. And the other one is where I work at Ashford Place. So, for example, they do have Qigong there, and there's available spaces, and it's only £5, and that's on Tuesday afternoon. So we're very fortunate in London, although I've mentioned rush hour, etc., but we have so much opportunity in London, and it's just knowing where to tap into. And locally in Brent, there's a lot going on as well. You know, Brent Council website, It's just knowing where to look, really. There is a lot going on in our libraries, lots of different workshops, and it's not all expensive. You know, some of it is free. So, are there any questions at this point? It's in Cricklewood, not Hollywood, Cricklewood. So maybe we'll take this little time just to pause again. I didn't mention actually another thing which I find very important is the digital boundaries. And I've definitely given myself a digital boundary. So you might all be familiar with the digital and well-being on your phones under the settings. But I've given myself just a certain amount of time because otherwise it can become like a rabbit hole. But Generation Z now are waking up, and I hear that a lot of them are just saying no to TikTok. I'm seeing much more people now on the tubes, younger people reading books. There's going to be a backlash against social media. It's already started. So, yeah. And again, you know, memory challenges. I think smartphones sometimes give problems on memory. I'm sure a lot of you have gone upstairs and just wondered why you went upstairs, or you're looking at your phone for something and the next thing you're down the rabbit hole looking at something else. But I did go to a talk from a scientist about the impact that the smartphones have on us. And again, a lot of Generation Z are now going to what they call the dumb phones, going back to the old Nokia. If anyone remembers the Nokia, if you're old enough to remember the Nokia phone, which was not a smartphone. It just had the basics on it. So I've been also reading about how a lot of people who worked in that sort of arena, in those big sort of IT companies, are also moving away from phones. It's just about being aware. Obviously, they're very helpful, but it's just being aware about how you're using the phone, really. So for me, that is one of my healthy boundaries. So if someone actually calls me, I don't have to answer my phone straight away. It might be convenient for them that they video call me on a Friday evening at 7, but it's not convenient for me. So somebody else's urgency doesn't have to become your schedule, because it might not suit you, you know. So, yeah, it's just being strong enough to be able to say, I can come back to that, if at all. I have a notice on my personal emails saying, please note, I only check my emails periodically, so people don't have an expectation that I'm going to reply to phones or emails straight away. It's not my thing, because a computer or a smartphone, for me personally, zaps my energy. I can feel my energy completely drained. So it's just food for thought, you know, at your relationship with your phone. Okay. So we'll just do a little meditation now. Was there any questions? Any questions in the audience?
Would you say that now, these days, with technology moving forward, screen time is a bit of an issue for a lot of people?
Yes.
Which maybe causes their mindset to change a little bit. You can probably repeat the question, so one more people can hear. So, just wanted to ask that nowadays, with the rate that technology is moving forward and the screen time that children, young people and adults have, is that having impact maybe on their health, mental well-being? They're spending too long looking at screens, scrolling and things like that.
I believe so. I mean, some countries have already banned it, haven't they? and other countries are thinking about it. So I think that says something about it, really. For me, you know, where's the creativity, you know? The creativity, the imagination that we used to have, whether it be dancing, whether it be singing, whatever it was, embroidery, all of these things, the skipping, you know? We used to make skipping ropes out of elastic bands, do you remember that? And creativity, I feel, is probably lost a little bit through these devices. And what jobs, I guess, are those jobs that are going to be valid looking forward? They say jobs using the hands, actually, are going to be quite valid. So, yeah, thank you for your question.
Hello, sister. Thank you for the talk. So I have two questions. First one is that, like you said, lady lashed out on you, and you were silent, and like you protected yourself. That's her problem. That's not mine. Usually they will tend to take it on themselves that how come they've shouted on us, and about the boundaries as well. Like it's easy to break your own boundaries because sometimes you are used to pleasing people. Like I do all the time. Whenever I don't want to go anywhere, I say yes, and then I end up regretting afterwards. So it's more of like your habit, you build it up. So how one will go into that stage that it's okay to say no, it's okay to protect your emotions when someone else, what any other person is going to think about you, because you can't control it. That's for sure fact. But how do you protect yourself from that?
I think it's practice. So they say in Brahma Kumaris, this is my belief, that the actual topic that you're given to talk about, I didn't choose this topic, it was given to me. I believe that that's the topic that I probably need to work on. And so I'm very much like you and have been. And I guess, as I said earlier, it starts very young, you know, in life, because you're trying to please your parents and you're trying to, you know, be the perfect child, be silent, be quiet. And then it comes out, as I said earlier, being quite introverted, you know, and being too nice. I remember way back when I was working in fashion, a few of my friends said I should do this course because I was too nice. And I paid over £300 to do this 1 week course. And at the end of the 5 days, the 30 people in the group that I did it with, they all had to critique the person and give feedback. And the feedback for me was, well, you're very nice, but there's nothing wrong with being very nice. But actually it's when, you know, you do things that you don't want to do. I'm getting much better at saying no now, much better. I think it's with practice. And because you realize that the person that you're saying no to, half the time, they really don't mind and they respect you for being honest with them. You know, certainly if someone said to me, I'm really sorry, but I can't make it this weekend, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind. It's usually, probably if they do mind, it's more about the other person's neediness. But once you start to practice it, it becomes easier. To sit in silence for a little while and say, what should I do? I have to say, when I have said no, so for example, saying no to an invitation, when I wake up the next morning, I'm so grateful and fairly proud of myself that I said no and did something that I really wanted to do, because how you perceive what the other person is feeling, you can't. No one can perceive that. And half the time, they really don't mind. I hope that's answered your question. So practice. The next time that you really want to say no, and remember, you just say it in that very neutral way, like the sky is blue. You say it without the emotion coming through. And your friend, if they're a good friend, will respect your honesty and your answer. So with that in mind, another thing with the meditation, and another really helpful thing as part of the answer to your question are, and you can look it up, positive affirmations, especially relating to healthy boundaries. So with that in mind, we can go on to a short meditation before we close. If there are no other questions, I'll put it out there to the floor. Any more questions? We have time if anyone has any questions at all. You're happy to have a silent reflection before we close? So getting comfortable in the seat again, and the feet, the soles, feeling the earth, and the palms just on your lap, and just feeling natural and feeling relaxed. And just say silently to yourself, I am okay with my thoughts, I am okay with my opinions matter, my perspective matters, I take responsibility for myself, I don't feel guilty for my opinion, I stay aligned with my opinion, I matter, my health matters, I don't take responsibility for others' feelings, I respect others, and I also respect myself. I am a master, almighty authority. I am a peaceful soul. My energy is important to me, and I surround myself with people who respect me, and I like the company of like-minded people. And it's okay to say no. I honor myself, I honor my health, I honor my body, and my decisions support my health. My decisions support my well-being, and my decisions support my mental health. To be the best version of myself, to be the optimum version of myself. I move through life aligned with nature, and I am content. I feel relaxed and content in the decisions that I make. My values are important to me, and my integrity is important to me. I move along in rhythm with the flow of life, and my energy is preserved. Om Shanti. So thank you all for coming today, And I hope that you'll have at least one takeaway to take home with you, something practical that you can use in the next few days. You know, whether that be the Qigong, more meditation, extra sleep, you know, getting into bed 9 o'clock just to see how it feels. You have to start getting ready at 8:30. But good quality sleep is very important and very important for the brain. It really is. And it's very underestimated. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sister Sharon. Today's topic was really helpful, and uh, the the topic which I really like was that creating digital boundaries. That was really helpful for me, and the little exercise which you have done to release the energy, that was also really helpful. I hope each and every one of us will practice that in our home as well. So uh, the topic for next Tuesday talk is Passport of the Soul by Sister Kanan. And there is Monday and Thursday reflective meditation, both online and in person, which starts from 7 to 7:30 p.m. And also Fast Track Online Raj Yoga course, which will start from 2nd March to 8 March, 6 to 7 p.m. And the product of the week is Creativity to Reinvent Your Life, which is available in our bookshop. And, this is the product, this one, the book. Okay. Thank you very much. And thank you to the one who are watching online. Thank you.